let's talk a little bit about the actual details of the museum, because I found this very curious. The attention to detail. There are no right angles in the entire museum. Everything in the museum is curved. Tell me a little bit about that. What was the thought behind that? Yankson might have had, or did you want that?
In my life, when I started out, I wanted to be an architect, and then I realized that it actually involves a lot of math. I decided that wasn't such a good idea. So then I went to building cars and racing cars, and almost got killed and decided that probably wasn't a good idea either. But then I went, and I didn't do that well in high school. So I decided, well, as I was in the hospital and recuperating from a car accident, I said, well, maybe I'll just go to junior college, and because this was during the Vietnam War, and there was a certain advantage to going to the college. So I went to college, and I liked social science. It was always very important to me. And so I decided I'd just take a lot of social science classes because it really was something I was interested in. And I got really hooked on anthropology and fell under the sway of he was actually more of an English teacher, but at the same time he was really a mythologist and somebody who really understood mythology, which I really was extremely interested in, and which really comes from a time when I was, I don't know, about 5 or 6 years old, and my mom would put me to bed, and I asked her a question, and I said, Mom, if there's only one God, why are there so many different religions? And she really couldn't answer that. But I've spent the rest of my life trying to answer that, and I come to the conclusion that I believe in God, but I have no idea what God is, and I don't think anybody does, because that's the thing where a very, very human nature is that it's when you're born, the baseline is fear, and as you go through life, you're curious about things, but you're especially curious about things you don't understand, and therefore that's a threat to you. And as a result, you make up stories to make it feel good. Well, you know, it goes dark periodically. Why does it? What happens if the sun doesn't? If it doesn't get day? It's just night. What happens if and back in the Greek times, they said, well, you got Apollo, he's a god, and he has a chariot that's on fire, and when it goes over, flies over, it's all daytime. At night, it's dark. Oh, I feel better now. And it's true. It's stories that make you feel connected to other people, but it also gets rid of some of the problems you have about the fact that you have to know everything. And of course, one of the real problems we have is humans think they know everything, even though they don't know anything. They're very, if you take the universe, we know so little about what's going on that it's just, we're like ants. We have no knowledge whatsoever. We just think we do. And that's one thing that this kind of art will celebrate in a way, because we have science fiction. Science fiction is a myth. We have made it real, but we've made it real because of science fiction books and art. And so that makes people say, oh, well, we could go to the moon, and once that idea is implanted, then we sort of believe we can do it. But the real problem, as I say, we think, well, we can go to the moon, we can go anywhere. No, I don't think so. Everything is in elements that are so huge, so fast, so impossible to understand for a human being, that you can't depend on what we know, and you can't really, you can be inspired by what we think we know. But in the end,
Guillermo, you look like you want to get in there. What do you think?
Oh, I was no. I think it's the shape of the museum for me. It is flow, and what is beautiful is that George is a collector, I'm a collector, but I know I don't own anything. I'm holding it briefly for the next person that is going to hold it or see it, because we are not eternal. What we hold and what we cherish is. That art will live longer than any of us. And the flow of the museum is like a Mobius strip. It's telling you that. It's just telling you, look, this is for you. And then you're going to bring the next thing. And it's going to continue. And you can drink from the same fountains of knowledge and image and content and power and myth that George and many, many others have been part of. And that continuum and that generosity is what makes a big difference, that the shape reflects that. And I think it says, look, this belongs to you, carry it with you, and keep moving forward. And that's what this type of art says. It's not, this is where it ends, this is the all of all alls, and you should be puny, but this is for you. You hold it for a moment, and you pass it on. And that happened to me with the fires. Came so close to my collection, and I said, I'm going to start moving some of the stuff out. I draw the line at 3 houses full of stuff. I got to be a little more. And now that this museum exists, a lot of it may go there, because it's beautiful to share, and that's why we are here. We are here. I said the other day, you are in this world to be a host or a guest. If you're a guest, you will never be happy. If you're a host, you will always be happy to serve. And this museum is hosting that type of art, and it's a continuum that belongs to all of us.